Hi, I'm Ed Marsh. Welcome to this episode of Signals from the OP. On this Friday before Christmas in 2017, it's a casual day here in the office. We're going to have a different signals today. We're going to dive into that cherished story, Christmas story, A Christmas Carol, which certainly has a dark side to it, but it's a beautiful story of redemption. And I think that there's some important lessons in there for many of the manufacturers that I talked to today. Now, in the spirit of signals, there's no props, there's no costumes, there's no sets or anything like that. This is a simple production of A Christmas Carol, which I'm going to narrate and share some insights that perhaps will resonate with you. You know how the story starts, of course. A long, full day at work, which I don't plan to have here today in the office. But finally, Scrooge extracts his last pound of flesh from Cratchit and sends him home with a begrudging Merry Christmas. Shortly thereafter, he's visited by Scrooge heads home himself. He's visited by his old partner, Jacob Marley. And that's where we're going to start. I'm going to ask you to envision yourself sitting in traffic on your way home after that last day before Christmas, probably in the office later than you wanted to be, when you're the one that owns and runs the business and you're stuck there often later than other folks. You get home, and as you're driving, you're struck by this memory of Phil. Phil's this guy who you knew in a trade association that owned another business much like yours and was doing fine for many years, but it failed during the last downturn. And Phil died not long thereafter. Now, I know you're different and your business is different, but as you're visited by him, you see that weary look on his face that now you remember that characterized him the last couple times you saw him, that stress and the intense emotional pain that you can tell that he's feeling from that experience. It startles you. And you remember the rumors that you heard of the ordeal he went through, and you kind of shudder at the implicit warning that he's bringing you that it could be you too. Shaken though, you're relieved to pull into your driveway, get into the house, see your wife, give her a kiss, have a cocktail, sit down and enjoy some dinner, and do some stuff for the evening. You watch the 11 o'clock news and it's time for bed and you doze off, and then the dreams start. Maybe it was the cocktail. Maybe it's the memories that you had of Phil, that visit that Phil gave you as you were sitting in traffic on the way home. But shortly after that, here comes the ghost of Christmas past. Comes sweeping into your dream, takes you on a tour of a bustling office. It's an office where the phones are ringing, sales reps are running to and fro carrying piles of paper. The fax machine is buzzing. You remember the fax machine, that long string of coated paper that would come running out of it like a serpent on the floor, like those old sulfur snakes we used to light as kids that would kind of expand and expand and expand. I mean, it must have been 1990 as you look at it. It was a good year. You think about there's the tree in the corner that has the gifts underneath it that your staff had all cooperated and bought for the Salvation Army family or families that your company sponsored. You watch the scene and you remember at that time in your life, your kids were still getting up early on Christmas morning, eager to find what Santa had brought them. And you realize that was early in the 90s. That was probably the last good year before there was really 7 hard, tough years after that. The dream ends. Fortunately, you feel relieved. Just as you were starting to remember that the anguish that you had over the personal guarantees that you were given that almost got called. So you sleep for a while, kind of feeling comfortable. You're back into a deep sleep, and then suddenly you're aware of the ghost of Christmas present, gently nudging you. Maybe not so gently. It kind of feels like maybe when your wife whacks you if you're snoring in the middle of the night. But you're conscious suddenly of seeing a scene in front of you, or a series of scenes. Series of vignettes. First one, there's your VP of sales. She's at a family party. She's talking to her brother-in-law at this family holiday gathering, talking about how she's looking for a job because she can't possibly hit the numbers you expect her to hit without inside sales support, without CRM, without marketing automation and other tools that are so necessary. She knows they're necessary. It's obvious to everybody except the guy that owns the company that she works for, apparently. She rants about all the no-decision deals, about the bulges in the pipeline, laments the disconnect between the marketing effort in the company and customer service. And you're shocked as you listen to her talk. You thought she was so loyal. You make a mental note. In the next scene, you're going to have to talk to her about it. But then here suddenly you're in the next scene. You see that rising star at your longest term customer. He's leaving the office having just gotten a fabulous review, an annual bonus. He's racing home. He gets home. He's so excited on the way home. He calls his wife, gives her all the good news. The review went great, huge raise. We're going to go out to dinner tonight. It's going to be a good year. I promise you a good vacation. We're going to do that. But he's worried though, because one of the first things he knows he's going to have to do is change from that supplier that they've worked with for years that just doesn't get it. He's tried to explain that he needs a different solution. He needs a different way of doing it. He can't just have this transactional relationship anymore. And he knows that's going to cause friction with his mentor because his mentor has had such a long and loyal relationship with that vendor. But he'll deal with that later. For now, he's going to celebrate and enjoy the good news. But as you watch that scene, it dawns on you, he's talking about you. That's you, your business. That vendor that doesn't get it that he's going to drop. What does he need that you're not giving him now, you ask yourself? Just like for the past 10 years. But before you can answer, you're just kind of noodling that thought, and suddenly you drift out of the dream and into a restless sleep. I mean, the answer was almost there, but just out of reach. So you're sleeping along again, and of course, you know what's coming next. It's not long before the ghost of Christmas future pays his visit. And it takes you on a whirlwind tour. The first stop, the industrial park, the familiar surroundings. You see your parking spot, your building, but there's a different sign on it. What's up with that? Before answering, though, you scoot along. You're off to the next scene already. It's a whirlwind tour, and you see that VP of sales again. This time she's talking with her husband about the incredible year that her business has had. And she just mentions in passing, if only he had listened to me, what we could have done with that business. And that prompts a moment of melancholy for her as she kind of muses aloud about how lean those final years' holidays must have been for you after everything collapsed. And then you move again quickly along. And now you're at that competitor that you love to hate. And you're a fly on the wall in the meeting in their office. This must be just before or just after the new year. They're there with the CFO and the controller and the accounting firm. They're talking about the record year that they had in the revenue. But revenue not from what you traditionally did, but revenue from data. They're monetizing data. They're a publisher now? What are you talking about? You wonder, I mean, that's not the business that we were in. What happened? What changed? And then finally, quickly into one last scene. You realize that you're looking at the front door of the house of your shipping manager. One of the first people that you let go from your company as business started to decline. And here he is coming home late, slowly dragging himself up the front walk, arthritic knees, hands freezing cold, trying to shake off the cold after a day as a UPS helper. He never bounced back after you let him go. He was a professional in your operation, and now he's struggling to try to find a place. So the good news is that ghost leaves. Suddenly it's gone. It's 3:30 in the morning, but you're wide awake. You normally get up at 6:30. You had set the alarm. It doesn't matter. You realize today's got to be the day. Today's got to be the day. You dig into it and understand what happened, what went wrong, what went so disastrously wrong. You get up, you turn on the coffee, you brew a cup of coffee, and as it's brewing, it strikes you. It's simple. I mean, after all, you're not miserly or mean or cold-hearted like Scrooge. You don't need to see the misery you've inflicted on others. You haven't. You go to work every day. You work hard. You try to provide a decent place to work. But then you remember something that you read. You read it in a bunch of places, but it wasn't true of your industry. What you kept reading was that buying's changing and selling needs to change as well, but you knew that it was different in your business. Except it wasn't. And so as this realization hits you, instead of heading out to the butcher or sending a neighborhood boy with a few pence off to the butcher to send the Cratchit family a fat goose and buy some toys for Tiny Tim, you commit instead that this will be the year that you make your company buyer focused. By 8 a.m. you've found information on the internet. You've researched CRM and marketing automation and content marketing and inside sales and sales enablement and business model innovation or product as a service, all these kinds of things that you've dismissed. You're overwhelmed. You're nervous, and of course, frankly, you're scared. But you've seen what the status quo yields, and you're determined not to fall prey to that. So happy holidays. Best wishes for a prosperous 2018 and many years thereafter. If you're eager to grow your revenue profitably and predictably, I can tell you that organic growth is possible for industrial manufacturers. If you want to prepare for a liquidity event, that's possible too. Whatever your goals are, you can achieve the growth, but not the way you've traditionally done it. So let's talk, whether it's before in these waning days, before 2017 is over, or early next year, or even late next year, whenever you're ready to undertake the changes that you kind of see me allude to in this video, I'm ready to chat.